Welcome to AWE, the first annual podcast. AWE stands for A Wisconsin Wedding. I'm Auntie Trish, aka Princess Trish, here with Gloria and Simon Regan. The purpose of this channel is to celebrate love and Wisconsin weddings and just everything Wisconsin. Because, if you haven't been, I already said if you haven't been to a Wisconsin wedding, you're missing out. And the purpose also is to kind of promote an event that we'll be having for a Wisconsin wedding. But that is all in the future. For now, we're going to focus on Gloria and Simon. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get started, I just want to mention that we are outside at their reception location. It has birds chirping, so we're authentically AWE and raw. So if you hear the little birdies, please take that into consideration as we continue. But anyway, so welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to just introduce yourselves again, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, the schooling, where you met. We'll do ladies first and start with Gloria, maybe.
All right. My name is Gloria, originally Kessler, now married to be a Regan. But I grew up on the tip of Lake Winnebago in Menasha. I grew up on a small little hobby farm, raising all animals, llamas, donkeys, chickens, you name it, we had it, beef, cows, and pigs. And because of that love for agriculture and growing up in that section of Appleton, Menasha area, I was able to go to school for agricultural education and take that to my current job called LeClaire, where I help with tours. And before that, I was able to get heavily involved in the county fair. So that's actually the place we are right now, is our county fairgrounds. And I am on the board of directors for the fair, and I'm on Farm Bureau. And that ties us into some of the things that I do with Simon now that we're married. So I'll let him introduce himself.
My name is Simon Regan. I grew up in southern Sheboygan County, about 45 minutes to an hour southeast of here. After high school, I went to the United States Marine Corps for 4 years. Got out, kind of dabbled between farm work and mechanic type stuff. Moved up to this area with a farm opportunity. That's how I got to meet Gloria.
Well, that's perfect. That segues into our next question. How did you meet? So, yeah.
So when I was at the farm, we hosted the annual Calumet County Sunday on the Farm, which is a dairy promotion event. So the place I was at was the host farm, and then Gloria was there, and that's how we found each other.
That's awesome. And how long did you guys date, Gloria, before you guys got married?
Well, we met in June of 2015, and I proposed Mother's Day weekend of 2018. So
There we go, 3 years.
3 years. Very good. And who did the proposing, and how was it done?
I proposed. I knew she always had the dream of having an animal with an ear tag saying "Marry Me" on it, so I used that with the help of her dad. Got one of her animals tagged with "Marry Me," and then had a little plan set up with her dad, and then she stopped by the farm to untie the animal and pointed it out to her, and she saw, and I got down on my knee and asked her to marry me.
So a tag, like a name tag. So all of our cows on our farm have names. And when I bring them to county fairs or cattle shows, you basically work with them every day, kind of like you would your dog. So you give them baths, you walk them around. And one thing that we do is at the end of the night, they have to get untied. So they go back by their buddies and back in the barn. And that's when I was able to read her ear tag, and it said, "Marry me." Aww. So it was in her name tag.
Literally, right? Aw.
Aw. Perfect
So,
Wisconsin fashion.
Exactly. So where was the ceremony, and what day did you guys get married?
Our ceremony would have been in Sherwood, Wisconsin, which is about 15 minutes from here. And then we would have gotten married there early afternoon on that Saturday, July 6th, 2019. After our ceremony, we actually stopped at my family farm to do pictures, of course, with the cows and all the horses and all that fun stuff. And then we made our way here to the fairgrounds in Chilton, Wisconsin.
Very good, very good. And the weather, I was there. I will say I was there that day. But if you want to kind of recap what the weather report was for the day.
It was hot and muggy leading up to it the day before. We had the rehearsal dinner here as well. Then that morning, helping with setup, it was still hot and muggy. Then we had a short, small rainstorm, and then it cleared out, and it was no humidity. It was perfect temperatures, especially for July. Mm-hmm. And it was a gorgeous, awesome day.
Yes, for sure. And where did you get your hair and makeup done, Gloria?
So I did my own makeup because I'm just too picky some days about my mascara. But
Sure.
we actually utilized Hot Heads in Brilliant.
Okay.
So not too far away from here, but we had some family friends that work with them a lot. So that was where we got our hair and makeup done.
Wonderful. And where, well, you had the reception here in Chilton, but how many people came to your wedding, would you say?
You ask a really great question because we will always kind of dabble in what was our actual number. We sent out 600 invites and we had an amazing attendance, especially for a holiday weekend, 4th of July weekend, and with people traveling so far. But we think we had close to 500 people,
Wow.
between 450 and 500 people.
Awesome. That's awesome. And what color were your bridesmaid dresses and groom's attire?
Dark purple,
Dark
my favorite
purple.
color.
Aw, how nice. Oh, I keep doing it. Oh, it's just starting. And your flowers, were they real flowers, fake flowers? Who did your flowers?
They were real, and we actually used just the local floral shop that's been very big supporters of the county fair and other agriculture activities in our area. They're called Just For You, and they were in Chilton. And ownership has changed through the years, but I would still highly recommend them because they were awesome at giving me options of what my colors were and still working with me to incorporate sunflowers or some other accent pieces by still being very affordable. So it was very nice to work with them for our flowers.
That is awesome. And some of these things that we're mentioning will probably, hopefully, with technical support, be in the tag or advertising. So definitely check out their websites as we go along here. Okay, and then how many bridesmaids and groomsmen did you have in your wedding?
I had 4 bridesmaids
4 groomsmen.
All right.
and then 2 ushers.
Nice. And who was the flower girl and ring bearer of?
We had one flower girl. Her name was Emmeline, and she's actually my goddaughter. And then our ring bearers were my godsons, one being my nephew Tucker, and the other being my godson or cousin Hayden.
Great. And
So 3 kiddos.
aw, that's awesome. And who did your wedding cake dessert for your wedding?
Ideally, we didn't want cake right off the bat. We were very excited to bring a Wisconsin item to the table, and that is ice cream.
Heck yes.
So out of the Farm Bureau food stand here at the county fairgrounds, because we were both so active members of that association, we were able to get ice cream from the same place that my grandparents' milk would have went to, Lamer's Dairy from Appleton. And we had soft serve ice cream for our dessert. And then there was just generic sheet cake kind of stuff, but we were way more excited about bringing in the dairy product. You know, I have to support our farmers, and that was the ice cream sundae bar.
And on a personal note, you know our grandma, and she has ice cream every night before bed. So ice cream is a definitely Wisconsin thing to do, for sure. And then your food, as far as what you had for your food. And I think you had a cheese carver, too.
We did. So for food, one of Simon and I's, there's things we thought of right off the bat as we started making wedding plans was how are we going to find a venue that can hold enough people for us. And we decided that it had to be here at the fairgrounds where we both kind of met through the fair. And we were able then to raise our own wedding meal. So because we're farmers and we raise beef and pork, we were able to do a taco bar and pulled pork sandwich bar. So we were very excited to be able to raise our own wedding meal. So our food was all kind of done by ourselves and some very, very helpful family members, some cousins, some just people we knew and just loved us enough to be willing to cook off a lot of meat in a very short period of time.
That's great. And then did you have an open bar? And what kinds of beer, alcohol did you serve for the wedding?
So we used a liquor service or a bar service from north of here, Valley Liquor. So they brought a beer trailer we had Busch Light and Miller Lite for beers, and then we had some wines, just kind of a generic assortment, and then a small assortment of different liquors for mixed drinks. Whiskey and brandy for old fashions. I think there was some, vodka and some rum, some stuff like that. And then they had 2 of their bartenders here to try to help serve drinks and manage it. And then we had a bunch of friends that volunteered to kind of help, especially at the beginning when things were quite hectic for them.
That's awesome. You have to have alcohol typically at a Wisconsin wedding. Not all of them, but it's definitely something you want to have for sure. And then the music. Who provided the music for your wedding? Was it a DJ, a band?
We had a DJ, and it was a family friend that did it for us. He did a great job taking lists of different requests from everybody, but my family is definitely heavy on the country music side of things, so a DJ worked really well for us. And he was here the whole time, even when the cheese carver first got here. So he definitely entertained everybody the whole night for us.
And what was your first dance together? What was the name of your song?
Who I Am With You by Chris Young.
Aw. 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 And the mother-son dance and the father-daughter dance.
So the mother-son dance was Simple Man by Leonard Skinner.
And my daddy-daughter dance was a Darius Rucker song. I want to say You're Gonna Miss This.
Oh, I think you're right. I feel like.
I know it was Darius Rucker. I feel bad.
Oh, wow.
It won't be like this for long. There we go. It won't be like this for long.
And then we can always, at the end, I was going to maybe play some music of what you guys had at the wedding. But we have to see. Oh, the birds are singing enough for us, so maybe not. We'll see. So, but oh yeah, okay. So, did you give any mementos to your guests? Any sometimes people give out. I know with that many people, were you thinking about anything before? And if you did, it sounds like you're shaking. She's shaking her head no. So what were you considering potentially having?
We were considering trying to support local producers and kind of bringing in those family ties to our wedding. So with our decorations, it was all things from my family farm, things that had another secondary meaning to them. But also, I didn't want to buy a bunch of decorations and then put them in a closet or try to resell them. So we did planters that ended up being used for other functions throughout the year. We did a beautiful stained window as a memento of people that couldn't make it to the wedding. So it was a lot of black and white, old-timey photos of relatives that passed away. And we ended up really trying to incorporate a lot of old school things into our wedding day itself.
And then I was going to ask, was there anything additionally that was unique about your wedding that you would think is different than some of the other Wisconsin weddings that you've been to?
The cheese carver. So in a way, trying to tie in like the old family ties to things, we wanted to do a little jar of honey or a little jar of maple syrup because my brother and brother-in-law both do those items. However, to try to do that for 500 people didn't make sense for us at the time. But we were able then to bring in, obviously I work at a creamery. Simon was a dairy farmer back then. So the cheese carver was a very unique thing that apparently happens more often than you'd think, just not so much at weddings. So we had the cheese carver there. So in a way, everybody could have grabbed some cheese on their way out. So maybe that was our gift.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then would you change anything about your day looking back, would you think? Is there anything you would have really done differently or?
It may sound kind of odd, but because of, and people have had way bigger weddings than we did, but I know I mentioned to Simon the other night, it would have been really nice to just have more time to visit with people. One bit of advice I actually got from somebody that I give out now that we've been married for a couple of years is try to greet all your guests and talk to everybody as much as you can. However, at some point in the night, you need to be able to enjoy your wedding yourself. All the efforts and little details you put into your wedding, yes, it's for your guests, but it's also for you because it's your celebration of your love, and it's an awe moment here in Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
So we wish we would have been able to have more time to talk to people, but I think both of us at about 9 o'clock at night, we were done talking to everybody else. We grabbed our old fashions and we started dancing with everybody and just enjoying the wedding for what it was. But if there was more time in a day, it would have been awesome just to check in with everybody and truly see who made it.
Yes.
It's really hard to look back and be like, were they there? Were they not? It's just a lot of fun things going on.
That's okay. It was at the end of the night, that's when all bets are off. The shoes come off.
Exactly.
The alcohol flows more. I was going to say, so what are you doing for work now that you guys are married? Have you kind of explained each what you're doing? You're doing stuff together. I know you guys farm for sure, so.
Around that time, I started a new job working at a egg fabrication facility, and then was there for 4 years, and now I work at a local John Deere dealer, working in the shop there on tractors and other equipment.
And now to switch it up, actually, what is one of the most memorable dates? Well, I'm switching this up to talk about like now focusing on love for sure, like after the wedding and things like that. So what is one of the most memorable dates that you've went on together, would you say?
Oh, that is a good one. I feel like I just had the answer the other night, but it always changes.
Sure, that's a good thing.
There's always something, but our very first date was very traditional, very Wisconsin. I met Simon at his farm, and then after talking to each other long enough, I finally convinced him to ask me out on a date. And it was very sketchy if you think of it that way. We met at a Walmart parking lot.
Oh, awesome.
We got in his truck, and we had to go pick up a cattle chute. So a tool for the farm, basically, is what we had to go do.
Yes.
And that was our first date, so it was going to be memorable no matter what. But the more we look back at it, it wouldn't have worked for any other couple but us because it was just very odd. Most people don't go on their first date to go across 2 counties to go basically a marketplace pickup kind of thing, if you think of it that way. So we went and got something for his farm. That was our first date, and that will always stick out to me. But we've had a lot of adorable moments in between, especially now with a toddler.
Oh,
And just figuring those things out, and just date nights look a little different nowadays.
that's okay though. You have some good family and friends. They should definitely help out, and he can come along too sometimes. He's super cute. So, all right. And then, what are things that you like to cook for each other? Do you have favorite restaurants? Do you guys cook for each other? Like, what do you guys like to eat? I mean,
I love it when Simon makes me grilled cheese sandwiches, and that's been a staple since we started dating. Whenever he would make dinner, it was normally in a hurry because there's always so much going on. But grilled cheese sandwiches are my favorite from him.
does Gloria make anything that makes stick? What's your favorite thing she makes? Did you say, Simon?
She's good with lots of things. I know it sounds generic, but I mean, she's very good with. I always enjoy her cheesy potatoes, and sometimes the you want to call them the classics or the soul warming food like meatloaf or stuff like that. But even just making dinner in general, like I'll try to help out with dinner when I can, or at least giving ideas, because a lot of people complain just coming up with the ideas 3/4 of the battle, and sometimes I struggle to do so, but she still gets dinner on the table, and it's home cooked and not slapped together overly processed stuff. She works a full day and has a toddler begging for her attention, but she still gets a home cooked meal, and that's awesome enough, and I appreciate that.
That's great. And then I was gonna say, how many years were you married before you did have your first child?
2.
2 years. Okay, that's just enough time to go on date nights. Now, if a sitter was not an option and money was not an option, what would be your dream vacation, and where would you like to go someday?
When I try to predict Simon's answer on this one, I just assumed he would say the Grand Canyon. And his assumption for my answer was Alaska.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, he has always been very supportive on helping me reach my lifelong goal of seeing a moose in its natural habitat, which I know sounds very goofy, but I'm just obsessed with moose, and I think it'd be so cool to see one out in the wild, not just at the zoo.
Sure.
So I think it would be a grand adventure like that, somewhere very outdoorsy, whether it's a national park or just going to Alaska and checking stuff out there, but definitely outdoorsy is what we go for.
Maybe if Og gets big enough, we can get you there. That's my hope. We'll see what happens, but... and then we'll kind of switch over to your family. So who in your family and friend circle would you say has been married the longest?
So my grandparents, awesomely enough, were both in attendance at my wedding. My grandma passed away, I think, 2 months after, but they were married month after our wedding. They celebrated their 73rd wedding anniversary.
That's great. What about you, Gloria? Do you know anybody in...
It's hard for me to guess exactly how many years. I know my mother's parents were married until they passed away. I mean, everyone in our family was married till they passed away. However, some of them passed away younger. So it's hard to guess with that. But I think Simon's grandparents definitely blew us out of the water with 73 years.
That's a goal. Hashtag goal. Hashtag. That'd be awesome. Awesome. So now we got to get a little real. What is the one thing that you guys do that kind of gets on your nerves now that you've been married since what now? You had said in the beginning, 5? No, 5 years? Yeah. Coming up on 6? Okay.
There's always just random little things, and we all have to admit that sometimes your mood and your preferences change with the season. Being in a world of agriculture, especially with Simon being a mechanic on equipment that helps plants go in the ground or helps plants be harvested. He gets really busy certain times of the year. So, not as home as much. You have a little bit more forgiveness when you're not stepping in on each other's toes. But mine is both one thing that I absolutely adore about him, but I also drives me nuts. So it's kind of a catch-21, right? So mine, I guess, you have a lot of thought that goes into everything you do. So, for example, if I ask him to build me a bench, and I'm thinking this is a 30-minute project, cut some wood, put some nails in it, we're done. Simon likes to draw out the blueprints, and he likes to make sure everything is measured perfectly, that it's glued and nailed, and maybe even stapled, and do everything according to the book to make sure it turns out perfectly.
Sure.
Which is awesome.
Awesome.
But also, I just wanted a lunch. But it's a catch all on that one. So 2 things, but sometimes I absolutely adore it, and other times I just want to hustle.
And I know it's dangerous for men to say what drives you crazy about your wife, so you don't have to answer, but if you want.
But he does.
He does. Of course, I guess.
I think I've gotten where we work to, see eye to eye or, work with each other. But, like, especially before, our son Oliver, I had my own routine in the morning. And, especially by the time I got married, with the early 30s, so you're well established in your routines. And then our kitchen isn't small by any means, but, we'd be tripping over each other. Just kind of that,
We'd be tripping.
working together on, so she can still do her thing, especially now with, a toddler where there's a lot more going on. And it's not just, I'll go do something else and say I got to get him milk or whatever else. But, working with each other on
Staying out of each other's way.
But at the same time, still allowing the other person to get their stuff done. And
well, now we'll just say the best part now. What is the one thing you love? And if you have more than one thing, that's great. So what is one thing that you love about Simon so much?
His patience.
Aww.
Aww. So I grew up in a household where my parents are both extremely hardworking. They put in so many hours. And then by the end of the day, when they got home, we had to put in more hours on the farm. So sometimes it was very late nights, tension was high. And I'm going to be very blunt when my family listens to this and say they're all a bunch of hangry people. And when they don't get their food in time, they get grumpy. Oh. So I kind of grew up like that, where you just, when you were grumpy, you just stay quiet and avoid each other so you don't end up snapping at each other or anything like that.
Sure.
But when something goes wrong, you would panic about it. So, for example, one of my, I guess, better memories of something that I screwed up on was I locked my keys in a rental car when I parked at Simon's house, and I panicked because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. How was I going to get home? And instead of thinking it through like, okay, you just need to call somebody to unlock the car, I panicked and I started crying even because I thought Simon was going to be so mad at me for this. And he said, don't worry about it. I already made a call. He'll be here in 10 minutes. His buddy came and unlocked the car for me. But it was one of the first times dating where I realized, like, he's not mad at me. He has great patience. We're doing good. And especially watching him with our son Oliver and all the different things that kids do or my nephews do. Just so much patience and just, all right, this is where we're at. This is our day. You might be crying, but we're going to be fine. Or, oh, you might be overly hungry, but we're going to work through it. Very patient.
That is so cute. Awesome. And what about you, Simon, for Gloria?
I mean, she's an awesome wife. She's an awesome mom. I mean, I know there's a kind of generic, but she's kind of highlighted. But, like, especially in this past spring has been a little extra challenging with work. There's been some late nights that are very unpredictable. Like last night, I wasn't super late, but I got home a little over an hour later than normal. And when I kind of realized, like, okay, I'm not going to be home in time, I just sent her a text, hey, I'm going to be late. And, she's super patient about it. I think the other week I was late as well, and it wasn't ideal just because of the situation that night. And I know she wasn't thrilled about it, but she didn't greet me with, anger and hostility when I got home. It was
no pots and pans or
just, hey, that's the way it is. And, she knows I might not be thrilled about it either, but, we got other things to get frustrated about, and why let that get in the way. And right. I appreciate that.
And I will say this one's not on the list, but how old is your son now?
He'll be 2 in August.
He'll be 2 in August.
He'll be 2 in August.
That's good. So with that being said, I know you guys have been married, not less than 10 years for sure, but do you have any, at this point, words of wisdom for any other couples at all that you can think of?
mean, everybody's very different. I do feel like, in a way, fights are good. But we've also had to come through a lot of things. There's something called the love languages, and we learned that with counseling. Before we could get married, we had to go through counseling with the church. And I think it just opened up a great perspective for me. Simon can attest to his own. But just everybody loves in a different way. For example, some people really like physical touch. Like they love hugs, they love kisses, they love hand holding. Simon and I, we like holding hands, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same as I really appreciate acts of service. So that makes me sound like a really bad boss lady or something like that. But just like, instead of me begging to do dishes, he just does them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So finding ways to show somebody you love them without just saying, hey, I love you, and walking away. Simon's, I think we always just battle, what is it this week? Like, what's going to help you feel the most love this week? And as long as we've been able to do that, I feel like we don't fight. We don't have issues. It's when one of us, I'm going to say, gets lazy or sloughs off or gets busy, because not every day is perfect. That's just how it goes. But being able to take a step back and realizing, like, you know what? I haven't told him how much I appreciate those extra hours at work. And I definitely didn't thank him for doing dishes for me last night so I could sit down. And then you realize, like, okay, that's why we're grumpy with each other. It's not because it's not because he was late. It's because he didn't communicate it, right? Like, I like that. That's my love language. So for me, that's something I would always let other people know. As dorky as it sounds, to do your homework about how to have a good relationship, it affects your relationships with your parents, with your cousins, with your friends. How do they feel loved? And some people like little gifts. Some, there's all different kinds of love languages, but I think that would be my advice, is learn that person's love language and try to do the best you can to help them feel loved in whatever way they need.
Absolutely. He's not in his head. I think that's a good agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with my wife, right? So
Good boy.
that's right. But so anyway, well, that's pretty much it. That's the 32 questions that I had for you guys. I will just say I'm very excited to hopefully, because I talked to Gloria about this podcast and she was on board right away. So happy with that. And we do want to try to have a dance to hopefully raise money for farmers, a certain amount of proceeds. There's still no timeline, rhyme or reason to it, but if you listen to this podcast, there'll be links and updates, and hopefully it gets to be awesome. And yeah, but thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
Birds chirping and all.
The birds are chirping, and yes, we are looking at a beautiful day in Wisconsin. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's definitely not cold. And the first podcast is going to start in June, because it's actually May when we're recording this. But it'll be June, July, August, because those are the first 3 months of a Wisconsin wedding time, is like to have it in the summer. I mean, you can certainly have it in the cold, but
Not as common.
not as common. Nope. So, nope. Oh my gosh. Nope. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So,
or no.
all right. Well, thank you so much again, guys, for being here. And I hope you guys have a great, successful marriage. I know you will, with those Wisconsin roots. I'm pulling for you for sure. So,
Well, thank you. We are too.
Thank you.
yep. Thanks. Bye. Oh, wait, you got to say "ah" at the end. Aww.